debate about NextEra. I want to be honest. You're talking about I'm not offering any specifics.
We need to talk to what's the agenda today. That's, I don't waste my time.
Right.
I'm here for a specific reason, and I'm not getting any answers. All I'm getting is handouts.
Okay, let's go to that.
NextEra, you know, I don't know who they are. They don't know who I am, but I want to know what they're standing for and what is their affiliation with Hawaiian Electric Company, Maui Electric Company.
People can come here so we can get one answer and we can all listen to the same answers.
Can you
That
bring
would be very
a
helpful.
table over for the kupuna? Let the kupuna sit down and the young guys can stand up.
If it's your desire to try this format and ask the questions and get an answer, you know, it's okay, we can. So all I ask is we'll try in a way that can help both of us, right? Because people want to ask questions, people want to hear the answer. But I do want to introduce you to two particular people. We have the president of Maui Electric here tonight, the Sharon Suzuki from Maui. And we have from NextEra, Eric Leeson, who is from actually on Oahu now, but of Hawaii, NextEra Hawaii. And his team is here, as well as a few of us from Maui Electric. So we're here. You know, we're here because we want to be here. And so to give you that chance, I just want to make sure, any kupuna you want to sit down, you know, it's okay. But if you don't, I'm okay with that too. Your choice. But we'll start first with kupuna, with a question, and then, you know, Eric and both Sharon are available to answer, as well as any of our staff.
I actually had an opportunity to speak with Rob, and which I was grateful that I did have that opportunity, because my question was, when a big entity generally comes and buys a smaller entity, what happens is the people, we the people, really don't benefit. We end up sucking wind.
Sure.
And Hawaii Electric has not had a really good track record as far as cost is concerned.
Okay.
So my concern was, when would we as a people see a savings, and what kind of benefit were we going to get?
You will start to receive savings in the first year after the transaction closes, if our proposal to the Public Utilities Commission is accepted. So we've said we've committed to savings a total of $60 million over the first 4 years, and that the Commission is reviewing our application. That process is going to take months. It'll probably take to the end of the year, potentially longer. We've been asked to go beyond the $60 million and to explain. We believe there are many sources of savings for customers that we can bring over time. And we've been asked to be more specific about that, so we're in the process of becoming more specific about that. And I can't say any more about it at that time, but I can tell you we've already committed to $60 million of savings in total for the 4 years.
Thank you. Because another question of mine was, how would we save when you're actually going to buy new equipment and new vehicles for Hawaiian Electric? Because generally Hawaiian Electric will pass that cost down to us, the people.
You're right. Generally, the way utilities work is they spend money, and then over time they recover that in the rates that they charge you. There are, when you're a utility, sometimes there are things you have to spend the money. Let's say a truck gets old and you need to replace it, or a line comes down and you have to repair it. But there are other ways you can spend money to actually save customers money. I'll give you an example. I'm not suggesting that this is the right example for Molokai. I'm just giving you a real-life example from our utility, Florida Power and Light. We have invested billions of dollars in new power plants in Florida that have actually saved our customers money. And the reason they have is because we replaced old power plants that weren't efficient with new power plants that were efficient and used less fuel. And in the process, we reduced our consumption of oil and we saved our customers money. So there are opportunities like that, and we're very focused on trying to find those opportunities.
Thank you.
Let me just, I'll add, you're very welcome. I'll add one more thing. This is our track record, okay? At Florida Power and Light, there are 55 utilities in the state of Florida. Our customers have paid the lowest rates for more than 5 years. Our customers pay, our residential customers pay 9.7 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. Okay, 25% below the national average. I am not promising you that rates in Molokai will go to 9.7 cents.
That'll be great if it does.
I'm not promising you that. What I am saying is we have a track record of focusing on costs and driving costs down for the benefit of our customers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Auntie, we'll see if they have.
What is the current kilowatt hour price in Florida today?
For an average customer, well, for our utility, Florida Power and Light, it's, am I right, Rob, 9.7 cents?
And do you use liquid gas?
We do not use liquefied natural gas. We do use pipeline gas.
And you can't do that here, so what would you do?
That is true. So Maui Electric has a plan over time to invest in their system and reduce customer bills. So I'll let Sharon speak to that.
Okay, so we came in
About a month ago.
March, about a month ago, and our purpose at that meeting was to share our clean energy plans that we filed with the Public Utilities Commission last year, and it included bringing in liquefied natural gas and burning it at Pala'au, and also adding more solar, so both rooftop and centralized solar with a battery, because we see that in order to maintain reliability on this grid, if we added a large scale, we call it a variable source, so solar isn't always there, right, 24/7, like in the evening. So we would have a battery coupled with that. But that was a base plan, and it's not set in stone. It's very dynamic, because we know that the assumptions we use in that plan, oil prices have dropped since then, so it's been to your benefit, because fuel represents about 50% of your bill, and we do not make any profits on that fuel portion. It's a straight pass-through, so if it goes, you did see it when it went up, and it has gone down recently. So we wanted community input. We did hear some concerns about bringing in liquefied natural gas. I think there's concerns about the environment. We heard that the community, many of you want more rooftop, the opportunity to interconnect more rooftop solar, and you do want more renewable energy. And so we will certainly evaluate those comments, and as we update the plan, we'll consider those.
Liquefied natural gas would require a huge tankers to come in with the stuff, and we're not gonna, probably no one here is gonna want their harbor to be dredged and made larger than it is today. So that's definitely, you're gonna get a fight on your hands when people, if you bring in liquid natural gas, nobody's gonna want that. We can tell you that. I mean, that's the general feeling, I think, in Molokai.
Okay, no, thank you for that feedback. Yeah, we're not planning to dredge. I mean, it was really going to be brought on in like containers. We call them ISO containers. So it'd be like a...
It actually would not be a
like
tanker.
a trailer, yeah, not a tanker coming in here.
But it requires large ships, doesn't it?
Not any larger than the cargo ships that are coming in now. There is another, but you are right. It's the concern is understandable, because there is another plan from another utility to potentially bring in large-scale LNG. So I think that's where your concern may be coming from. Let me just add that everything I said around focus on cost is not all predicated on bringing in LNG. There's a lot of ways you can reduce costs, and we've focused on all of them.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to complete here and see if anyone's going to have additional questions before.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yep.
I was just wondering, say you have the state, would you be able to prorate costs? Meaning the prorate costs, would it be the same, our costs would be the same as Oahu on the Big Island? Or you would treat smaller islands like Molokai, because where the lines would be on your prorating, and could be benefit for us if Oahu's paying so much and the cost is fixed in, because what's going on is, because we're up in Mauna Loa and it's harder to transmission the water up Mauna Loa, we pay a higher rate, water rate. When the whole county of Maui pays a certain rate, then we're paying the highest in the state, if not the United States. Would we be able to get a prorate cost straight across the board from Kauai to the Big Island?
Well, I'll take that. So out of the Hawaiian Electric family of companies that's affected by this merger, as a 3 company, we have had discussions about something we're calling maybe, it's not quite statewide rates because Kauai Island Utility is their own separate entity. But I think that's something we would try to look at as we try to maybe align our 3 companies more as one company and functionally and economically. So it is an idea that has been thought of and will have to be vetted going forward.
I would just add, it is actually not Hawaiian Electric or NextEra's. We don't have the power to decide that. We could propose it to the Public Utilities Commission. Ultimately, only they can decide whether that happens. I'm not trying to pass the buck. I just don't want you to think that we could wake up one day and decide to do that.
Okay, so we'll go, if I see you raising hands, so I'm just going to call you out. First you, and then the gentleman, and then back to that.
I have a couple of items. You keep referring to Florida Light and Power, and so I presume that there's a number of companies that are underneath that? No or yes?
There is not.
There is not.
There's one. I'm happy to explain how our company is organized. So NextEra Energy Inc. is the equivalent of HEI, okay, the holding company. And like HEI today has the Hawaiian Electric companies and American Savings Bank, okay, 2 businesses. At NextEra Energy Inc., there is Florida Power and Light, our utility in Florida, just one of them. And then there is NextEra Energy Resources, which is a renewable energy, principally a renewable energy company.
So what attracted you to Hawaii? Because you weren't here a while ago. So what attracted you to come to Hawaii?
So I've personally been coming here a fair bit over the last 4 years, not to Molokai. And the reason, and more and more of my colleagues have joined me over time, and the reason is we're a renewable energy company. And we look at Hawaii as a place that's blessed with renewable energy resources and is paying the highest bills in the country. And everybody I talk to in this, everybody I've ever talked to in this state wants to get off of oil, and that you have an opportunity to replace oil with renewable energy and save money. And so for a clean energy company, that's pretty exciting. So it's not a big place, but it is very interesting for a clean energy company. That, and as we considered the idea of combining with Hawaiian Electric, the other thing that we realized is that we had some experience in Florida that we thought would be helpful here in Hawaii. So for example, we used to burn 4 times more oil in Florida than Hawaiian Electric burns today. We burned 40 million barrels of oil a year just 15 years ago, which is a lot. Hawaiian Electric companies burn 9 million barrels of oil a year. Today, we reduced in the last 15 years our oil consumption by 99%, and we save customers money at the same time. So we are big believers that renewable energy or cleaner energy can come at a benefit to customers in terms of cost, and so all of those reasons are why we're here today.
Okay, so in the newspapers, for over the last couple of years, your company's name has been associated with the sea cable. So what's your stand on the sea cable?
So our stand on it, first of all, there's 2 parts of that. First of all, we have never been part of any effort to develop a big wind project or a cable to Lanai or Molokai. Okay, we don't actually think that's a good idea. And the reason we don't think it's a good idea, first and foremost, is because it's very clear that the communities don't support it. Sorry?
Amen.
And if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me, but that's what I've heard. Thanks.
Okay, to the gentleman, then Matt, and I saw somebody.
Sorry, Mahini, I just,
Oh, was it Mark?
and then the rest of the answer is, but what we have done, and this is true, is we have spent some time looking at, does it make sense to have a cable between Maui Island and Oahu? It's a different kind of cable. It would, instead of being an extension cord that's sucking the wind out of a neighbor island, and it's all going one way, right? It's one way from Molokai to Oahu. It'd be a two-way cable. And there are some benefits to that. And our analysis is that there could be benefits to Maui as well as Oahu. We've said in the past, we thought it made a lot of sense. What we've said more recently, since Hawaiian Electric put out they filed some plans that said they didn't think the cable made sense, we said, well, we need to look at that. Okay, we don't know all the details of their analysis. We're open-minded. At the end of the day, we want to propose something that's right for customers. We also understand there are environmental and community concerns that need to be factored in. Okay, we don't know all the answers on those, but we start with, we're technical and we can look at the economics. Does it make sense? We are open-minded. In our mind, the jury is out on a cable between Oahu and Maui. That is our stance on it.
And I just have one more question. On your $60 million savings, is that throughout the state of Hawaii or here on Molokai?
It is throughout the Hawaiian Electric companies, so excluding Kauai.
Right, so, and so that's broad.
Yes.
Throughout. So then on bottom line with Sharon, if they can come in and save $60 million, how well is your current utility run if these guys can walk in and save $60 million?
Okay. I'm going to answer. So
Yeah, 'cause
this doesn't come, the 60 million, we have advantages as a larger company. Okay, we have the ability to buy things more cheaply. We have a lower cost of capital. So there are things we can do to help the Hawaiian Electric companies reduce their costs that isn't necessarily saying they weren't doing a good job.
isn't part of it also just not increasing rates? Right?
Yes.
Is part of the 60?
Yeah, the $60 million comes from saying, right now, the way their rates are set, the way your bills work, how much you pay for every kilowatt hour is, it automatically, there's a piece of it that automatically goes up every year. It's to cover their operating costs and to adjust for inflation. And what we've said in our application is, you know what, we will find a way to keep those costs flat. And if we're wrong, it's on us. So that's how we got to the 60 million. But it's not, I don't want, it shouldn't be taken as they weren't doing a good job, we'll do it much better. This is more, we bring some advantages to the table, and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is.
That's a guarantee.
Yes,
I'd like to see that in writing.
it's in writing.
You
It's in our
got to point it
application,
out to
and
me.
it'll be in our testimony on Monday.
So I want to respect that the gentleman had his hand raised and so did Matt, and then we can go to you. Go ahead, sir.
One slightly aside question. The existing hardware that generates electricity on this island is aging. We know that. And your diligence ongoing preparation to get to this point. What's your sense of how much money are you going to have to spend to bring that equipment up to where it will last however long you need to have it last?
So, I'm going to give you a little bit of a long-winded answer. You know, this was a merger of two public companies, which means that if there was a leak, then there would be all kinds of problems. The people would trade on it, the stocks would move up and down. And so whenever you're doing a combination of two public companies, very few people are involved, which means you actually, ironically, can't do the level of due diligence, of investigation that you can on a smaller deal. And so we didn't have the luxury or the time or the resources to be able to develop very detailed plans for things like that. But we had one advantage, which is that the Hawaiian Electric companies had filed their plans with the Commission in August for the next 15 years. So we know those plans, no offense to Sharon, they're not perfect, they're going to change. The Hawaiian Electric companies have said this, they're not cast in concrete, it's a start. But we took that as, actually, those are pretty good plans, and we're not going to do better than that on our own without all the information. And I'll tell you, the short answer to your question is, in those plans, they forecast between 2015 and 2030, $8.4 billion of capital expenditures. So that's my,
Molokai?
across their system. Now, I don't remember what Molokai is, maybe Matt knows. But across their system, $8.4 billion.
That's a nice broad answer, but you haven't really answered my question with regard to this pile of hardware out here.
Yeah, so I think as part of that, there were some investments assumed in Molokai, and I personally don't know what those are.
Well, we forecasted not too much change in the demand for electricity, and I think what we included, and it was really to start the dialogue with the community, was what I shared earlier, that instead of, to try to bring down the cost of the bill was to look at a lower cost fuel, which was the LNG, and to add more renewables in the form of solar. And this is information we had gathered previously from the community in terms of what are the opportunities, I guess, for renewable on the island. And it was really, I think rooftop or centralized, I think we're really looking for a cost-effective renewable energy. And again, the battery was coupled with centralized solar, just because we know we need to regulate the system to maintain reliability also.
Was that?
Better presentation with your hand.
Okay, Matt, and then he did ask for it.
Okay, mahalo. I think I'm going to share my concerns and maybe end with some questions, and maybe you can answer. I'm going to speak to our community just as much as I'm going to speak to you guys in regard to the concerns. First of all, mahalo for coming out. I don't know any of you individually, and on Molokai, when you come, we don't know you. We give you the benefit of the doubt. So, aloha, you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making an effort to meet our community. Thank you for understanding that this is how we do business as a community together. Yeah. Yeah, not like this. This is kind of like, this makes us real nervous. It's kind of big, flashy kind of stuff. And that's really kind of probably the basis of my foundation is kind of really around this idea that we're dealing with a really big corporation. HECO's big, and it's hard to deal with them sometimes, but they come, they listen. And in all due respect, as far as like the PV issues right now, they're making an effort to work with us to find solutions for our island. And they're Hawaii, right? They've been in Hawaii for a long time, and pros and cons to that, but they're big. These guys are huge. The company that these guys represent. So I'm not trying to insult you in any way. So as a small community, I think that should be the first big concern we have is who are these guys and what are their true intentions coming here, right? And the whole reason they're visiting us today is to kind of give us a sales pitch, but we got to ask that hard question is, because they're not coming, they want us to focus on lowering the price of electricity. They want us to ask those questions, oh, how are you going to help us lower our bill? Because that's where we're hurting. Electricity is expensive. It's hard for us, right, as a community to pay for that cost of living. And that's what they want us to focus on, but it's easy for them or anybody to promise that when they come in, they're going to lower the bills. And if you read the statement on their brochures, they have that statement at the end, the disclaimer that basically says any future statements are, you cannot hold them to any future statements. Anything where they say we will, we may, we might, we project, you cannot hold them to that. And so yes, it sounds good to have the promise of a lower electricity bill, but it's a promise that they're not obligated to keep. So as a big corporation, we got to watch out because they can come in and say anything they want. And really, they're not coming to help us. Corporations don't come into communities to lower the bills. They come because they have a goal of profiting somehow. We don't know exactly what their plan for profit is right now, and that's what we should try to figure out as a community, working with these guys. Maybe we can be in agreement with what their plan of profit is. We don't know yet because it's not all on the table. But I think if it's just about promising lower bills, promising renewable energy, that kind of stuff, then we should look at the track record. And if I don't know you guys, but I know your company because you can Google it, and you can read all of these articles that are coming out, and the track record clearly shows that Florida Light and Power and Light, has a really bad track record. They have a very clear track record of having a lot of power in the Florida government, of making solar illegal, third-party solar. Florida is like Hawaii, right? They have the amazing sun resource. They're down close to the equator. They have, So they have this huge potential for solar electric generation. They have this huge potential for rooftop solar, residential solar, and yet they're like ranked 29th in the nation.
Yes.
And that's because the utility there has these rules set up where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to put residential solar on your roof. The other crazy thing is you can't even go off-grid. It's illegal to go off-grid in Florida. You cannot choose to unplug and say, I'm going to put my own panels and be battery powered.
That's communist.
And that's like by state law. So you got to ask, like, what role did your company have in those laws? I'm not saying you guys did, but I'm just saying that these are the facts, right? This is how it is in Florida. So if we're looking at who's coming in to be our next utility operator, we got to look at what their track record is. And that track record, let me finish, you can address.
No, I won't interrupt you.
Okay, so I encourage everybody to go do the research. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of reasons to be concerned. Yes, their NextEra branch is very heavily invested in renewable energy. So they can come in and say, yeah, we're all about renewable energy, but it's about owning renewable energy. It's not about the people having renewable energy. It's not about distributed renewable energy. It's about centralized utility scale renewable energy. And that doesn't work for us in Hawaii. That doesn't work for Molokai. And really what I come into this meeting with is that as a community, we've been looking at what is sustainability. We've been looking at it real hard for the last 10 years on this island. What is food sustainability? What is economic sustainability? What is energy sustainability? And I think as a community, we've all come to see very clearly that sustainability is about being on that local, small community scale. If you want to have sustainable food, you got to support your small local farmers. You got to buy from your local farmers. You got to support your local markets. If you want to be economically sustainable, you got to encourage your local business people. You got to buy from your neighbors who are in business. That's the only way we can be economically sustainable. So when we look at energy sustainability, and energy does represent like the highest cost of living factor for us on this island, the answer is not to go bigger and corporate and to deal with somebody that's based in another state. The answer is to go local, to go smaller. That's why distributed housetop, rooftop solar makes sense for us. And it's working on this island. It's saving our island residents thousands of dollars. And all that money is staying in our local economy. And when you put PV, you're saving $500 a month, $300 a month. That's going right back into your local economy. If these guys come in and they own a utility, whatever their rates may be, and they're not going to go down, almost guaranteed, they may stabilize for a while, they're not going to go down. But whatever you're paying monthly to this new company, guess where the money is going, bro? It's not going to HECO. I'd rather it go to HECO because at least it's kind of like in state still, right? It's going out of state. So now all that money is leaving us, and we just lost this huge opportunity for economic sustainability. And if they impose the same kind of policies they have in Florida here, we've lost our opportunity for energy sustainability, meaning be able to produce our own power. Go off-grid if you have to go off-grid. Do net metering if net metering is an option again in the future, which we really hope it is. So those are my big concerns. I have additional ones, but mostly it's about track record. It's about what's happening in Florida. It's about what they can promise, but promises are easy to make. And what are they really going to bring to the table? We don't have that level of trust, right? And in Hawaii and in Molokai, it's all about trust. We don't know these guys. And so that's where my concerns rest. I'm not saying you guys are bad people. I'm not saying that your intention is to come in and make Hawaii like Florida. But I am saying if we can judge, if we can only judge you on what we can see, then it's kind of scary. So that's what I have to share.
I did it.
And if you like address, please address.
Well, let me ask you, because I actually, first of all, I really appreciate it. I think you've articulated things I know were on a lot of people's minds, and some things I've heard from others in Hawaii as well. I disagree with a lot of it. I don't disagree where you say this is how we do things in Molokai. This is what we value. These are the things we're concerned about. I appreciate that. I think when you talk about our company's track record and you cite things as facts, I think you've got some bad facts. So it's up to you all. I'm happy to go through all those, or not. If you want to hear it, I'm happy to talk about the facts.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let me start. May I?
Sure.
Let me start with.
Could I say something before you begin?
Yeah.
I'm here basically because you're a big company, and in this article over here, It says, at 51%, Molokai has the highest percentage in Hawaii of rooftop solar compared to the island's peak demand. Hawaii leads the nation as far as rooftop solar, and Molokai leads the state, said Matt McNiff, MECO manager of engineering at a meeting on Molokai last month. However, with the high percentages comes challenges for the island's small electric grid. In other words, there's a small little grid here. Okay, and those challenges are holding up the solar applications of Molokai residents who want to install photovoltaic panels on their roofs. And that's where we are today. We're being held up. So if you buy a $30,000 outfit, you gotta wait for it. I don't know what we're waiting for. So as a big company, I wanna know how you gonna fix that?
All right, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say my answer, and then I'm going to actually ask Matt to address this from an electrical engineering perspective. Then, if I may, I'd like to come back to some of the concerns. As I understand it, MECO's, and by the way, so everybody understands, today we're two separate companies. Okay, we can coordinate on some things, but we have to operate as two separate companies until the merger's approved and we've combined. So my understanding is that there is a concern about reliability to the entire system based on the level of rooftop solar that you have on Molokai today. And until MECO is comfortable that reliability is not being jeopardized, they have not authorized further rooftop solar. If the only thing I can say we could very clearly add to that is additional technical resources. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that if HEI owned the Hawaiian Electric companies and then the next day NextEra owned the Hawaiian Electric companies that we would wave a magic wand and make this issue go away. I'm not going to tell you that because I do think it's a legitimate issue, but I do think there would be some additional resources we'd bring to bear. Matt, is there anything you want to add to that? Or correct if I've misstated it.
No, so I came last month to talk about this, and that's what the article's about. So we are facing some challenges where, we're doing additional studies, trying to figure out how to make it all work. That being said, in particular, we're still accepting applications for the net energy metering program, but that program currently has some challenges that some of our other programs don't have, like standard interconnection agreements. So you can still install solar right now without any delay. It's just the net energy metering program, we need to do some further analysis to figure out how to make all this stuff work.
But you have a new one now, right? SEM?
SIA. So that's been around for a while.
That program takes profit out of it for us to build our system.
I will say you need to think about solar or designing your solar system a little differently than you did under the net energy metering program. Depending on how you design it, you could get the same amount of profit. It's just you need to design the system to whatever program you're going to be under. And people wouldn't design a standard interconnection agreement system the same way you would a net energy metering system.
Okay, can I?
Didn't the PUC say that you had to honor the net energy metering? And how is it that you're disregarding the PUC on this? I thought that you said the PUC has to, once the PUC says something, you have to go ahead with that. And you guys don't seem to be honoring that. I mean, we were cut off on January 20th. We have a large solar installation we're waiting to do in Cabela Plantation with 3 phases, and it's a huge thing, and we've been completely stymied at this point. We can't go ahead. And you've been told you can't do that, but you're going ahead anyway.
So we're working on additional analysis to help, look for additional options and to present to the PUC. And in the meantime, just at the end of last month, the PUC came out with an order instructing the parties to work together, and that's many of the solar installers, solar associations, to work together on PV systems and come up with different plans, different solutions, different tariffs that can keep solar sustainable in the state.
So will you sit with us? Will MECO sit with us? Because I will come and sit with you and discuss what we need to do, because we are a large, we are a small water system and we want to do solar, and we've been told that we can't do anything right now. So we're willing to come and sit down with you and have you give us those answers.
Yeah, we'll definitely sit down with anyone who feels like they have solutions that can help us move forward. And in fact, we've reached out to many of the installers, set up meetings so that we can sit down and go over ideas on how to make everything work.
So if it's okay with you folks to continue on to respond to Matt, and then I know Kanoho had a question and Walter. Yeah, we're just trying to kind of.
So let me just start with an explanation. All this legal stuff on the back, this has nothing to do with the answers I gave earlier. This has to do with a requirement by the Securities and Exchange Commission on disclosures you have to have when you're making an offer for someone's stock, which we are doing for HEI. So this has to do with the transaction. And Rob, if I'm not mistaken, once we have shareholders' approval, do we even still need to?
We may still have to.
We may still have to give this out.
It's Securities and Exchange Commission regulation.
But to be clear, this does not have anything to do with the commitments we are making as part of our application for the combination. Okay, so I think that was one of your points. It was a narrow point, but I don't want you to feel like we're saying one thing, but actually we're saying another, because I think we're saying one thing that we mean. So I think there were some concerns expressed about our track record in Florida, and we're pretty proud of our track record in Florida. If you're a customer of Florida Power and Light, you're a pretty satisfied customer. Okay, well, that's a fact. We have some of the highest customer satisfaction statistics in the industry. Okay, we have some of the lowest bills in the industry. We have some of the highest reliability in the industry. So, and we have very little rooftop solar in our service territory. And you're looking at me like, what is this guy saying? You know, they must be against rooftop solar. We're not against rooftop solar. There was, some have asserted, and I know you didn't make this up, you've read this on the internet, some have asserted that we have stopped rooftop solar. That is not true. There's been a law in place in Florida for, I believe it goes back to the 1970s. I had someone check with the law department because I was curious, about 40 years, that says you can't, if you are producing power, you have to sell it to the utility or you have to consume it yourself. You can't sell it to someone else. And you'd say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has a lot to do with the rooftop solar industry, because many rooftop solar companies actually own the solar system on your roof and then enter into a power purchase agreement with you. It's a kind of lease, and that is illegal under Florida law. We didn't make the law. The law's been around for 40 years. It had nothing to do with rooftop solar. A lot of people in the rooftop solar industry don't like it. It's the law, okay? Leaving that aside, there is nothing to stop one of our customers from purchasing, whether they use a loan or they just use their own cash, purchasing solar panels and putting them on their roof. And in Florida, in our service territory, at our company, when you send us your paperwork, and I've actually looked this up because I was curious because I get so many questions about it, there's 4 pieces of paper you need to send into Florida Power and Light. I'm going to come back to it. I'm not trying to make them look bad, okay? But we approve it in 1 day. And in an average of 11 days, we come in, we swap out your meter, and you're good to go. Okay, so it's a 12-day process. We are not standing in the way of our customers who want to have rooftop solar. So you may be, and by the way, this doesn't mean that Maui Electric's doing a bad job. They have much more of this to deal with, and I know there's a lot of unhappy people here about rooftop solar, but I will tell you, this is just a fact. Molokai leads the nation in percentage of rooftop solar. Okay, so they're dealing with issues that nobody else is dealing with, and they're trying to figure their way through it. And I'm not trying to say everything's been perfect. I'm just saying I'm giving them credit and recognizing that we don't have the same situation in Florida. We have it easier, actually. Okay, but why do we only have 3,400 customers now that have rooftop solar? Why is that? We actually have net energy metering in Florida. You get a full rate credit down to net zero, just like here in Hawaii. So why don't we have customers? Well, I'm a customer, and I can just tell you I have 2 reasons. Okay, number one, we live in a place with a lot of hurricanes. Okay, Florida Power and Light is designing the distribution system in South Florida to withstand winds of 145 miles an hour. I really don't want those things on my roof. That's just me personally. Okay, the other thing is I'm paying 9.7 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity. Paying a lot of money for electricity is not a problem I have. So from my perspective, the rooftop solar industry is offering me a solution to a problem I don't have, and they're actually creating another problem for me. And that's just my perspective as a customer. But I think there's a lot of customers who have a very similar perspective. What I can, regardless of why there's so little penetration, I can tell you as a fact, we are not standing in our customers' way. And we have a lot of very happy customers. Was there anything else?
That's good to hear that. What about the going off-grid concern?
That is completely invented. I don't know where that came from. If you want to go off-grid, as far as I'm aware, I have never heard of this before, except from the internet.
I've heard that from multiple people.
You know what? Send them to me. Send them to me, and I will get them in contact with someone who will help them get off-grid.
Yeah. I have a friend who's from Florida who said that firsthand.
Florida Power and Light?
Yeah.
Send them to me.
He used to live in
Send them to me.
Florida
I will take care of him. Yes. Here you go. Sorry.
So, can I add a question and welcome?
Just wanted to say, and give my support to Matt and the people working in the solar industry over here. Their jobs are in jeopardy. And I hope everybody in this community realize that whatever little jobs we have left on this island, we need to take care of those people. Whatever jobs we have left, because we don't have many. So it's very important, and I'd like to express my support for them. I hear everybody has concerns, and you guys serious about moving to the next step? ILO Molokai has made a statement to support initiating, moving towards a co-op for the island. You guys serious? You guys have concerns? Go see Cheryl, if Cheryl is here, or go see Joanne Toole. Go sign up to COCOA, because it's going to be a long and hard road in the path moving forward to create a co-op for this island. We're going to have to create a lot of unity, and we're going to have to work together to move forward to do that. You guys have concerns? You guys serious? Go sign up, because if we want our own energy independence, we're going to have to do it ourselves. And that's it.
Eric, there was one point that, when it's right, the point about that when we make a commitment, especially the PUC process, you may want to touch on that.
Yeah, there was the concern, and I think many people sort of nodded their heads like, you know, mainland company comes in, makes a promise, it all sounds good, and then, you know, it's forgotten, right? That was the point? Okay, well, in our business, we're regulated, okay? The commitments we're making are actually legally binding. We're regulated by Hawaiian Electric. The Hawaiian Electric companies are regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. There's a difference between being a public utility and another kind of business. Okay, we're here for the long term, and we will be regulated by the Hawaii PUC. So any commitment we make is legally binding.
I wanted to talk about history, because when I walked in, and Ms. Watanabe and John Oriuchi was by the door, it kind of made me realize how far back Molokai Electric goes and where we're going. But before I do that, I wanted to ask you who your law firm that you guys work with to guide you through all of this in Hawaii?
We actually have a few. Both Hawaiian Electric and NextEra Energy separately have law firms. Our primary legal representative is Morihara, Lau, and Fong. We also have Schlack-Ito. These are two Honolulu-based firms.
Do you guys use Watanabe?
We do not. We do not. There are others involved in this approval process that are using Watanabe name.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the history, because I saw those two gentlemen there, and I took some notes and I wanted to go over some of these notes. On HECO's website, they talk about how HECO was chartered by Kalakaua. And Kalakaua befriended Thomas Edison. So there's a really rich history that goes back with HECO. And what they didn't put on the brochures was that the people that formed the company way back when was a guy named Jonathan Austin, William Hall, William Lockwood, Thomas May, and Ed Oscar White. I'm mentioning these names because if you go through the history, what you find out is that these people were part of the Committee of Safety. This guy, William Hall, had a hardware company. And he's the guy that purchased 900 rifles from San Francisco and brought it to Hawaii. And they used those rifles against Kalakaua in order for him to come up with a new constitution called the Bayonet Constitution. And then these people used those rifles in order to overthrow the Hawaiian kingdom. This agreement that Kalakaua had with Hiko was a 50-year agreement that ended in the 1940s. So because of the overthrow, none of that legal kinds of things have gone through. So right now, it's a good idea for Hawaiian Electric to get rid of Hawaiian Electric because the writing is on the wall, right? The mayor is saying, hey, let's do a co-op. Kauai already has a co-op. The Big Island is talking about co-ops. Molokai is trying to figure out whether or not they want to get into a co-op. So that's the writing on the wall for Hawaiian Electric. For them to make this deal is a good deal for their shareholders. I mean, they can score and get out while the getting out is good. So I wanted to at least let you guys know that you should have your lawyers realize that because of the history and because of the place that you're in, Hawaii, you need to understand what is happening in the Hawaiian community. The Hawaiian community just went through a whole series of Department of Interior hearings in which the community came out full force. So what you have is a very shaky situation about what are the liabilities that you guys are going to inherit when you buy this company. Your legal team needs to understand and try to figure out how serious that is before you guys put, what, $4 million?
$4.3 billion, yeah.
$4.3 billion into the state of Hawaii, knowing how shaky that history is and what liabilities you're going to be buying and all of that. And all they got to do is disprove all of the information coming out of the University of Hawaii professors that are now lining up through facts about what happened during the overthrow. Was there an annexation? Does the state of Hawaii actually exist? All those things that people don't want to talk about and they push to the side, including the governor, including the legislature, including the courts. But it's becoming so serious that if I was going to put $4 billion into land sales and acquisitions in Hawaii, I would have my legal team disprove those kinds of things before I put $4 million into this whole thing. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be filing papers with the proper guys that are now representing Hawaiians and try to get you guys into a courtroom in order for us to come out with the position that because of all of those liabilities, you guys are not making the kinds of deals that you guys think you're making because of all of that history. I just wanted to throw that out on the table.
What kind of implement changes you're going to have on here on the island? And you say you're not going to change the island, but then yet we trust too much people, and then here comes, oh, I'm back. You know, they go, oh, we're going to build the windmills. Can you promise us that you're not going to change the island and put our island at risk, or all people, or all the animals here on our island? Can you at least guarantee us in the environment risk or anything will happen to us as a people or community? Can you guarantee us that?
I don't know. I'm not going to make you a promise that I don't know absolutely. You're going to say afterwards he was true to his word. So for example, I can tell you, we have no intention, we have never had any intention of being involved in a big wind project here on Molokai, okay? I can tell you that our intentions are to be able to help Maui Electric do a better job, bringing in more clean energy, saving customers money, doing it sooner, okay? I can promise you that our whole philosophy around doing business, and yes, we are a for-profit company, but we believe we can actually make a reasonable return on our investment if we do a really, really good job for customers. That's fundamentally our philosophy, and that's how we operate. Now, having said all of that, it may be that, for example, Maui Electric may go through with their plan of trying to bring in LNG, and I heard the concerns that maybe that'll be controversial. I can't promise you that you will agree with everything that Maui Electric wants to do. I can promise you we want to do the right thing, and we want happy customers, and part of that, you're the community as well as customers, so that means if you've got an unhappy community, you probably don't have very happy customers, so we're not going to do that intentionally.
So basically, you don't have any plans of pulling solar panels up for your purposes, or any plans with the windmills and anything?
The only plans are the plans that they filed with the commission.
Can she answer that? Do you have any plans with solar panels being built by your company, or any windmills being built here?
Oh, we don't have any wind. We did have solar, but
And we said no. And we totally denied it as an island. We said hell no.
For solar?
So the windmills.
Oh, no, we don't have any wind in the plan.
I mean, do you have any future plans?
Oh, no, not now, no. No, and I think certainly, I think we heard the community too when the big wind project from wind here to Oahu was proposed. And so we heard the community loud and clear, so no, that's not in the plan. Solar, we did put it out there. We would, it represented a resource. It could be distributed or centralized, and we would have to competitively bid it. So whether we do it or they do it, I mean, but that was into the future. I cannot remember exactly what year.
Is that there'll be no solar farms?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Solar farms, windmill farms.
We put in the plan a centralized solar, a solar farm, but it was again our proposal. So we're hearing now that you don't want centralized solar, you want distributed.
We get rare birds here, and the thing ever fly over, they want the thing monkey.
Okay, no, good, thank you.
I have a question. For me, I'm here, I'm a landowner. I would think that usually I always get the impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that as soon as they start talking about change, it seems like Molokai is always going to furnish all the electricity to the hungry other islands, and we don't have that much space to farm. And farms are like you said, they're messing. We have special birds that come here that migrate that land, and they need every inch we've got because we're smaller than everybody else on the islands. And it's great if you want to do something, but in the past, it's been very unfavorable to clutter up Molokai.
So to clarify, the latest plan that we shared last month with the community, I mean for those who could attend, it was looking at the future demand for electricity only on Molokai and looking at resources or, solar distributed that could serve the island. So it's only for on-island needs. We're not looking at putting industrial scale solar or wind on Molokai to serve any other island.
From my knowledge, and I think this is right, it's actually been a couple years since anyone was actually spending any time on a big wind type of project and a cable to Oahu. Basically, people got the message, so I don't think you have to worry about that one, certainly not from us.
It's nice to talk about it because, I've seen several groups.
Since you're on subject, can you reiterate the centralized solar farm, the plan that you guys may have thought about just for Molokai specific?
Yeah, it was just to address maybe changing from fossil to renewable.
Right.
We put in, I don't remember the exact size, but we assumed a certain amount, and this was just for planning purposes as a proposal, but coupled with that was battery, so to stabilize, like I said earlier, to maintain stability of the grid. But we're hearing
Would
would
that involve like contracting some of the people who work within the solar industry here on island? Would that involve that?
Our plan would be to do a solicitation or a request for proposal to the industry. I mean, that would be how we would do it. And, you know, we're working through with the commission on the exact process, but we wouldn't just go out and do it ourselves. I mean, that was the plan when we put it in there. Generally, we competitively bid, and I believe that NextEra also does competitive bidding when they look for new generation.
Could you share with us the wind farms on Maui? We know that you got, we see all the windmills as you go down Molokai. We see them going like this, slow. We see a lot of them not even turning, and we haven't got any feedback on how well they're doing from Maui Electric at all. It hasn't been in the newspaper. It's
Okay.
nothing published.
In terms of how the wind farms are performing?
Yeah, you've got big windmills all up and along the mountains area there. We don't know how it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah,
you know anything about it?
But we don't
Yeah, we don't own it. We purchased the power from those wind farms.
I see.
And what we've done on Maui, because at one time we weren't, and we still have challenges in the early morning hours when the electricity demands or, you know, from customers is low, right? A lot of people are sleeping. But the wind farms may be producing, that we weren't able to always take all that available wind. We have changed how we operate our generating units. We deactivated 2 of our generators at Kahului Power Plant so that we can actually accept more of the wind when it's available. And we also changed how we operate some of our diesel units at our Ma'alaia Power Plant. Same thing, so we can run it at a lower load, and if the wind is available, we accept the wind on the grid. If it's not available, we're able to increase the capacity that our generators operate at to still serve the demand for electricity on the island. So that's how it's been performing in terms of how much wind we've been able to accept. So in total, Maui Electric across the 3 islands has a renewable portfolio standard of 33%, which means 33% of the sales across the 3 islands, Maui, Lanai, and Molokai, are from renewable energy resources. So it's wind on Maui, solar here from mostly distributed solar, solar also on the other islands. Lanai has a 1.2 megawatt PV farm, and some biomass from Hawaiian Commercial and Sugar. So that's the last active sugar plantation in Hawaii. So we are doing, we're exceeding actually the goals that were set. The goal was 25% by 2020, and we're already at 33% for Maui Electric.
You thought we owned the you thought we owned the...
I thought you owned it. I mean,
no.
It's not land, you know?
Yeah, no, we don't own it.
Who does own it?
Mainland companies.
Oh, so a separate
Different companies. Yeah.
It's doing electrical, I mean, it's part of the...
That developed it, yes.
2 separate companies. There's 2 wind farms on Maui.
Oh, I saw hands raised, but okay, I know. Gentleman's been waiting, and then...
Yeah, I appreciate you coming. I'm not sure why chairs weren't provided, but I do appreciate you coming. I'm having a little problem with credibility. There's 2 issues in particular that come to mind. I would like to thank Maui Electric and Sharon in particular for the honesty with which they've approached the community and shared information. I pretty much trust them to be telling us the truth. But part of the truth they told us when they were here before, we asked about the future. What will happen when NextEra comes? And the answer from every one of them, I think, was an honest answer. We don't know. It will depend on what they want us to do. You're the boss. The buck stops there. This evening, I'm hearing from you, the boss, what we're going to do is, whatever, they've been working on and whatever their plans are. So I'm a little confused over that. The second thing I'm confused about, I've been, following in the press, and I'm not an engineer and all this, but I've been hearing you say, as you said this evening, well, people ask, what are your plans? Well, who can say? It depends, and we have to see what the opportunities are. We haven't been able to study it. I'm finding it hard to believe that a $15 billion company, which evidently has already spent, hundreds of millions of dollars getting ready for this, acquisition, I don't know how much you've spent, which is planning to spend $4.3 billion, according to the gentleman. I don't know if that's accurate.
That is accurate.
But you're putting down some serious cash, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, are you telling me you really didn't analyze all the systems here? You don't really have paperwork on the current condition of the equipment, the employees, the public relations, everything of all these companies, and you're just, you know, it might be a good company, let's buy it and then sort it out. I'm having a hard time accepting that. I don't know what's real and what isn't, but it seems to me either you guys are quite brave in your purchasing, in the way you purchase things, or there's some plans you haven't told us about. I don't know which is true. But do you see what I mean? I'm looking for where does the buck stop? Because when I ask you, you point to her, and when we asked her before, she pointed to you.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, on your first question, which you came back to at the end, I actually think they're consistent. I mean, I don't know if it was Sharon or who, but if somebody from Maui Electric said, well, it depends on the new owner, that's true. The new owner does have a lot of influence over what happens. And what we're saying as the prospective new owner, and obviously the transaction hasn't been approved, but what we're saying is we actually support their plans, and we think we bring a lot to the table to help them execute better, which means cleaner energy, more affordable energy, faster. And so actually they're consistent. I don't see the inconsistency, at least. So on your broader point, or your second point, that, and I know a lot of people are surprised by this, how in the world can anyone spend $4.3 billion and not have a detailed plan for every asset and every person? I'm just telling you, I've spent most of the last 20 years doing mergers and acquisitions. That's how it works. The irony is, the larger the deal, the more you actually can't afford to do that level of diligence. So what happens is you actually end up doing the most diligence on the smallest deals. That doesn't mean that we've made a bad, well, I hope it doesn't mean we've made a bad decision, because in the context of a $4.3 billion deal, every little detail is not equally important, right? So we had to get comfortable that $4.3 billion was a reasonable consideration for the whole business, and we had to consider some of the risks about that. And if you think, you know, well, he's just saying this, right? And really, they've got this hidden analysis somewhere. Well, I'm here to tell you, we're going through a Public Utilities Commission process. We are being now served with what are called information requests. They're requests, but they're really requirements. Okay, people are asking us a lot of questions. There's 30 entities plus the commission that can ask us questions, the consumer advocate and 29 other parties, plus the commission are serving us with these questions. I just answered a bunch of them today. And we are legally required to answer the question. And if they ask us for a document and we have a document, we have to produce it. So if we had that plan that I'm telling you we don't have, but if we did, we'd be legally required to produce it as part of this process. This is just how mergers and acquisitions work.
Well, then I have just one follow-up comment, and I'll stop. That's my concern then, and it goes back to what Matt said about giving up our opportunity to do something ourselves on an island-by-island basis. If this acquisition goes through, and I agree with him, there will be a very large company controlling energy in Hawaii. And the opportunity to experiment, to do pilot projects, to do independent projects, doesn't mean you don't do those, but the opportunity for us to do anything on our own will go away. And it seems to me, even if the details we're talking about aren't necessary for the merger, as a simple matter of public relations, in order to persuade people that this is a good deal, somebody needs to come up with some concrete proposals. Because otherwise, you know, I end up back where I started. All I can see is we're giving up our independence. What are we getting? It's too late. It's too early to tell. Who can say? And that doesn't sound like a good deal, even though, as you said, it might be.
Yeah, I respect all the questions. I have a lot of sympathy for what you're saying. If I were sitting in your shoes, I'd be very worried. It's very understandable. You'd have a concern about a mainland company 5,000 miles away, and they're going to come in and feel like they know all the answers, and it's going to be the same solution for everyone. Okay? I mean, is that a concern? That is not our intention. I realize you can say, well, people have said that before. Here's I'll reiterate our philosophy on the utility business. You don't have to take my word for it. It's on our website. It's consistent with how we do business. If you actually check our track record, you'll find it's consistent with what we do. We start with how do you make customers happy? And we work really hard to do that so we can actually earn a reasonable return, be able to invest capital into the business the way that is going to make customers happy, and the cycle continues. So that's how we do it. If we don't help Maui Electric make you as customers and as a community happy, I believe that we will fail. Right? I will be very sorry that we spent $4.3 billion on Hawaiian Electric. So we better get it right. And so I'll turn it around a little bit. We welcome the input as to things that matter to you and how can we make it better.
Sir?
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the LNG possibilities here, in that I hear that you're using the term a lot, clean energy, cleaner energy, and renewable energy. And LNG is not renewable energy, for sure. And cleaner, it would be debatable, especially given where we live, that it is cleaner. And I think what's happening a lot in the LNG world or in the gas world is that the cost of producing that liquid is left on the local communities that it's being taken from, with polluted water, air quality, the works. I don't believe it's really cleaner. I think what people want to see here is that we get off from fossil fuels, period, or as a very small backup. I can't see how that providing 50% of our fuel, we can't go completely to natural gas even if it was a better deal. It's only 50% of the diesel can be replaced, as I understand, by LNG. So this, to me, it's like a no-brainer on this island that LNG isn't going to help us in the long term. Oh, and one other thing about it. As soon as they make it legal to ship it to Japan or Korea or any place, the price is going to go through the roof. They already pay 3 or 4 times more for it there than they do here. If you can bring it here, it's not very much farther to Japan. And when there's money involved and trade agreements and the TPP and all this stuff that's coming down that's done behind closed doors, we don't feel very comfortable here. Not at all. So I'd just like to know, and that led me to think that possibly your company is very involved in LNG and natural gas. It's probably a pretty big amount of the energy that you're calling cleaner, but kind of married in with renewable, which it's not. So are you directly involved in the gas industry, or indirectly, obviously, but I mean, do you own some of the equipment and stuff that would be bringing that here? I mean,
so we, first of all, I think you're raising a lot of really totally legitimate issues. Full disclosure, okay? We are the largest purchaser of natural gas in the utility industry in the U.S. Like I said before, we were the largest purchaser of oil. Now we're the largest purchaser of natural gas. All the statistics I've seen say that's good for the environment and it's been good for customers. It's not the same as renewable energy. And I appreciate that some people would say, well, natural gas has other issues that maybe aren't being counted in that. And I respect that. There might be some other issues with oil that people aren't accounting for as well. But I'd say most of our customers, and ultimately we serve customers and communities in Florida, just like we'd be serving them here, they're satisfied with, that they're more than satisfied with, the service they're getting, the cost they're paying, the level of cleanliness. Look, Florida is not focused on renewable energy like Hawaii is. Okay, in Hawaii, everywhere I go, I talk to people, everybody loves this idea of going to 100% renewables, just about everybody. Raise your hands if you don't think 100% renewables is a good idea. All right, so I'm going to take that as, most of you think it's a good idea. So, and you're importing all this oil, right? And we're here in the middle of the Pacific. It's crazy. So we totally get that. In Florida, people aren't as worried about it. There is no renewable portfolio standard, okay? And that's not because we didn't want there to be. We're a renewable energy company. We would like a renewable portfolio standard. if you look at the whole Southeast, there are no renewable, I think I'm right to say, generally in the Southeast there aren't renewable portfolio standards. It's just different, communities have different priorities. So we get that the priorities here are different. We get that there are concerns about LNG. And what I would say on that is, you know, Hawaiian Electric, they put forth some plans that say, look, we think LNG could make sense and it could save customers money and it would be better for the environment. But they actually haven't made a formal application with the Public Utilities Commission. That's actually what they have to do for anything to happen. They haven't done that yet. So that may be happening later this year. There's another company, Hawaii Gas, they operate here. They may be putting a proposal in with the commission, and then the commission will look at this. And then, depending on how the project works, it may need to go through a full environmental review as well. So this is a very long-winded way of saying I respect your issues. This merger is not about LNG. Okay, LNG is going to be handled by one or two companies submitting separate applications to the PUC. If LNG does happen, we think we can be helpful because we have some experience, we have some buying power, but we're not assuming that it happens, and in our mind it's not essential or even related to the deal.
I have a comment. As far as I'm concerned, you could be part of the Russian mafia. I mean, Hawaii is on the open market. Our homes are being bought and sold by everyone and anyone from anywhere. When the guns was running back in 1893, there was a certain company that went along with it, and there are judges right now being put up for war crimes against the people of Hawaii. And what do I know? We're just looking at the political scientists that have studied the war crimes that has been done against the people of Hawaii. Taking the water for 1/5 of a penny and selling it for $2. And then this is another opportunity for corporations to get their bonuses, as my friends would say. But there's war crimes going on as we speak. And if you're going to invest $4.2 billion in Hawaii with a political change going on now, I don't know if you had a study on, you know, the judges that are being put up for war crimes. Our sheriffs and the Big Island being put up for war crimes. And it's the right time to get out for Hawaiian Electric. But I'd rather have Hawaiian Electric because we're local. I'd rather have people that we know that have family here. I would rather have than. I didn't mean to call you the Russian mafia, but I don't know you.
I won't be moving here. They'll still be here.
But we would like to have ohana. You know, when we call out people, we have ohana in the islands. What I'm saying is, $4.2 billion in this political 3.3.
He's negotiating the price down. I want you on my team.
For you guys to come here with this political shift going on now, to be looked at.
Can I just add, just so everyone's, I want you, the people you see with the purple shirts, unless they don't want to be part of NextEra Energy, they're still going to have their purple shirts, and there's still going to be signs that say Maui Electric all around. This isn't about a bunch of people from Florida coming and moving in. Okay, if you see a handful of people in Honolulu from NextEra Energy, that's about what I would expect.
He had his hand up, and then, sir, and then, go ahead.
Well, as the evening goes on, I think I see more than I did when I started, and I appreciate that. I take you at your word that what's interesting to you in Hawaii is the opportunity to do renewable energy. I don't question that you're sincere about that. It's interesting to me, though, that the entire state is like this room. No one will raise their hand saying they're opposed to renewable energy. So we've actually kind of, we've made hostages of ourselves on that issue. But the other part of it... So are you opposed to 100%? No, I'm not. But I'm just saying...
Is it reasonable?
I'm just saying, You could sell anything to this state easily if you said it was renewable energy, because people have made a commitment. They are concerned about global warming. They're concerned about fracking that's going on in other continents. So it's like we've already made our commitment, so it's a slam dunk. The other thing that's a slam dunk, and I think it's worth bringing out, we talk about lower electric bills, as it says on these posters. No offense to MACO, but the track record of HECO is not good, and this isn't a hard act to follow. If you are making money at 9.3 cents, is that what you said in Florida? Average? 9.7? Then you know how to deliver energy very efficiently. If you can make a profit margin that's adequate for a $15 billion company on 9.7 cents. You come in here, people are used to paying 50 cents. Your margin of error is just huge. I can understand why that would be attractive. But I think it's a little bit, perhaps, I won't say naive, but I'll say disingenuous to say, oh, we can guarantee to keep that rate. If you guys are that efficient, it seems to me you should be able to come here and say, maybe not in the presence of ECO or whatever, but you should be able to say somewhere along the line, 50 cents is ridiculous. It might cost even 2 or 3 times more to produce power out here in the Pacific as it does in the mainland because of all the networks. But 50 cents is still ridiculous. And I don't know if you want to address that issue now, but I think that's what people are thinking. So telling me you're going to maintain 48 cents or something, that doesn't really tell me you can do anything. I think a blind pig could maintain 48 cents.
Well,
and
I know what oil prices do, but so there was a lot in there, and so but no, but it's actually all quite important. So first of all, I want to make sure everyone understands how the utility business works. It's not like other businesses where you can just charge whatever price the market will bear and make as much profit as you want to. Right? That's how a normal business works. That's great. The way the utility business works is because it is a monopoly, and the nature of the monopoly is changing with rooftop solar, but it's mainly a monopoly. The regulator doesn't let you earn an unreasonable return. So literally what the Supreme Court has said is that a utility gets a reasonable opportunity to earn a reasonable return. So if we're successful, in Florida for example, our customers are paying 9.7 cents. That doesn't mean that we make a 20% return. We have a reasonable opportunity to earn a reasonable return. The reason we focus so much on driving their bills down, doing everything we can to lower costs, is because we know at the end of the day that's the best insurance we have of being able to earn a reasonable return, because we're going to have happy customers. So that's how it works. Another thing you said is, I know you were focused on my comments that the $60 million comes from holding operating costs flat. That's not the same thing as holding rates flat. Okay, so I wasn't saying that we're going to be able to hold rates flat. I can't promise you that rates won't go up, because today you're dependent on oil. If oil prices go up, probably your rates are going up. What's interesting about this utility, and in some ways what I'll bring it to your last point around how high the rates are. I mean, the rates are really high. Well, the rates are high. I'm going to take it to the whole level of Hawaiian Electric. Hawaiian Electric's customers are paying Hawaiian Electric $3 billion a year today. More or less $3 billion a year. And roughly speaking, $1 billion of that is going for fuel oil. Okay? So, and only about $400 million, which is still a lot, but $400 million of the $3 billion is going to operating costs. So you as a customer, on average, are spending 2.5 times more on oil than you are on operating costs. So when we look at that, we say, well, how do we drive the bills down? Well, part of that is keeping operating costs flat. We also have to find ways to use less oil, right? You can't just hope that oil prices are going to go down. You actually have to get off of oil to attack that $1 billion. So we're looking at the whole bill, but I'm not promising you that bills are going to go down. I want them to go down. We're going to do everything we can to make that true. And then there was a question about LNG, was it?
No. Sorry.
You good? Okay.
All right, so the gentleman, then the woman, and then sir in the back.
Yeah, well, I'm most interested in the cost of electricity here. When you first came in, you said we're going to lower electric bills. Now you're saying that, well, you can't promise that you're going to lower the electric bills. Matt says, no, you're not going to lower the electric bills. When I look at the situation, we've always traditionally had high electricity costs here. We've got a lot of infrastructure, we've got a plant, and we've got very few customers. Over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a huge number of customers here on the island that are no longer contributing to the cost, or contributing very little because of the net metering. So now you have a lot fewer people that are actually paying for the plant and all the infrastructure. So how do you address that when you came in here and said you believe you're gonna lower the electric rates here? Do you have any specifics of how you might accomplish that?
Yes. Let me just clarify that you mentioned sort of the apparent inconsistencies, okay? So the first thing we referred to was Hawaiian Electric's plan to lower customer bills, and it's lower customer bills adjusted by inflation by 20% by 2030. Okay, that's a big mouthful, but that is technically what they've said is their plan. Okay, now their plan requires a number of things. It includes getting off of oil and switching to LNG, and they've assumed the price to do that. There's a bunch of assumptions in the plan. So what Maui Electric hasn't done is promised you that your bills are going to go down 20%. What they've done is they've developed a plan. I think it's a pretty good plan, you know, room for improvement and everything, but it's a good plan. They're trying to focus on bringing customer bills down. They've said, we think we can bring it down by 20% adjusted by inflation. What we've said is, that's a great goal. We think we can help them do what they want to do better, faster, and cheaper. Okay? And we said as part of that, we're putting our money where our mouth is, and there's $60 million of costs that they were going to be able to pass through to customers that we will eat. If we can't find those savings, we'll eat them. Okay, so that's what we've said. That's everything we've said on this issue of cost. I think you've asked another question, which is, where are you going to find these savings? Is that fair? Right. So there's going to be a lot on this that comes out during the PUC process. But generally speaking, I would say there's a few big areas. Okay, first of all, the utility business is a very capital-intensive business. All right, they have to raise a lot of money to invest in the system constantly, to replenish the assets, to build new assets, and hopefully along the way make some investments that are going to save customers money. Okay, we have a much stronger balance sheet than they do, and what that means is we can get capital cheaper. And you don't have to take my word for it because it's going to be quantified in the process. Okay, they are already in a position to save money on capital because of our credit rating. Okay. So that is one. And when you're talking about spending $8.4 billion over the next 15 years, those kind of savings can add up. Another thing is, and I'm going to give this as an example, our purchasing power. Okay, we have built $27 billion of major capital projects since 2003. So that's a huge number. Why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because we are the biggest customer of some of the largest equipment companies and basically any supplier to the utility business in the industry. And so when we say we want it at a lower price, we tend to get the best price. Okay, so we have what are called economies of scale. We can purchase things cheaper than they can. Right? We also have a track record in building projects on time, on budget, competing with people to produce things cheaper than they do. So we're bringing those things to the table. So we're going to quantify. Oh, haven't quantified it. You're wondering what's the bill impact, et cetera. I believe that's all going to get. We haven't done it yet. We're in the process of doing it. I believe that's all going to be quantified as part of this process. It's going to be an estimate, but there's no question that we have advantages that can save customers money.
Okay, the other issue that we've got here is the solar situation. MECO is basically saying we're done unless we can find a solution to the problem. They say that we're basically nearing our saturation of the amount of solar that we can have. So we're just wondering where we go from here. Do you bring anything to the table specifically that's going to help us get to the point where we can have more solar and keep moving forward on the renewable front?
So I want to be honest, we don't have the silver bullet for that. I think we do bring some things, but it's not the silver bullet. They truly are, you guys are ground zero. This right here is ground zero for distributed generation penetration, okay? I think in a lot of ways you're the future. And so we're still figuring it out, okay? We bring a lot of technical resources. We have investments in technology in some of the leading companies, including companies active here in Hawaii. We actually have a distributed generation arm, so we know something about it. We're actually, you know, a major customer of solar energy companies, solar energy suppliers. So we bring a lot of resources to the table, including, and I don't know how you all feel about this, but Maui Electric has a plan to put in smart meters, which we think can help with this. We actually have 4.7 million smart meters in Florida, so we've got some experience there. So I think we bring some technical resources. We don't have a silver bullet. Matt's got the job. Matt, can you just...
Yeah, you know what? When you're talking about this population of 7,000 people,
yeah.
How many in Florida? 300,000?
Well, we've got about 9 million.
9 million.
Just in our service area.
I can count. I can do the math on my 10 fingers right here. You know, you can talk muscle because you got 9 million people that are paying you 9 cents a kilowatt hour, a kilowatt whatever. You see, compared to less than 3,000 that can afford the 45 cents a kilowatt hour. That's what we're talking about. With that said, then we got to talk to the PUC and see what the monopoly is all about. That's where trust comes in. So that's what. Thank you for being here and telling us what you all made up of. But now we know that you're not the guy to speak to. The PUC. We got to get those guys in there. We don't know whose political pocket they're in. So
I don't. They're not in anyone's political pocket.
No,
they are loyal. They are loyal public servants.
I'm talking about my local government.
Okay. So the PUC has said that they will. First of all, there's 2 ways that I can suggest to you that you can have your voice heard. One is they are taking public comments in this docket. I'm going to tell you, for those of you who want to do this, if you Google Hawaii PUC. Look for a link to something called DMS. That's the docket management system. Or if you just go on their website, you'll see a little up on the upper left-hand corner, a little box, and you plug in something called the docket number. You need the docket number to find this. Okay, the docket number is 2015-0022. And if you plug that in, you'll see all the documents in the docket. So you can inform yourself if you want to. I'm not saying you have to. There's a lot to go through. But what we're saying, what others are saying. Okay, you can also, you don't even have to do that. You can submit comments to the PUC if you have comments. There's a way to do that on their website. I think maybe send it to an email. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure there's people here who've done this before. So that one way to make your voice, you can inform yourself, you can make your voice heard, and they've said they are going to be doing public listening visits. I may not be using the exact right terminology. They haven't said when yet, but they've said after the end of August, they are going to announce when they're going to come around to all the islands. So they will come here and they will listen to your feedback.
I just want to point out that in recognition of folks who haven't spoken, I know she's been waiting, the gentleman in the back and this gentleman. So if we can do that and move along so we can best answer everything. Ma'am?
I hope I can pull it all together. This island and the people that live here are real aware of the finite resources on this island. And what I haven't heard tonight is that the globe is an island and there's finite resources on the globe. And I don't feel comfortable externalizing the cost of my energy here to someone else's backyard mainland. California right now is in a severe water crisis. 80% of the water is used by agriculture and industry. Part of that industry is fracking industry. They're now tapping into 20,000-year-old reserves to pull up that fracked gas. I don't feel comfortable with that, calling it a cleaner renewable energy. If you're the largest buyer of natural gas, you're also the largest seller, and that's where your profit comes from. In your portfolio, I'm wondering if you have projects that are in operation. In Vancouver, BC, they are using their sewage system to generate electricity. In Portland, they have generators in the water pipes capturing the energy there. The largest users of electricity on this island are the water companies. In New York, there's another system utilizing the sewage to generate electricity there. So I take it that in Florida, you have a lot of water being pushed around, and you have a lot of sewage that needs dealing with in an appropriate way. And with your billions of dollars, I wonder if you even have a small pilot project in operation.
But
I
I
wouldn't
do.
call it ethical, the world's most ethical company. I wouldn't say that about your company.
We didn't say it about ourselves. Someone else said it about us.
They're misinformed.
Okay.
Sir in the back, and then
A couple comments about how, you know, the cost of oil is expensive. The way I see it is there's solar, we're maxed out here in Molokai right now. You don't have to transport it, you don't have to frack it, it's in the sky, it's there. And it can be stored. Right now we're to a point where we can't store it, we've got too much. Hawaii's got too much. That's something that doesn't get fracked. Does it destroy the earth? You know, the rivers aren't being poisoned, the fish, you're not being poisoned, you know, those sort of things. Why can't we use something that's there, it's not less evasive? You know, that seems like an easy, cheap way to doing things rather than fracking, shipping it, bringing it here, somebody else's backyard's polluted. We've got solar right here. Why can't we start storing that? It seems like maybe, you know, what's the cost in that?
You asked a question, I think you were starting to ask a question about 100% renewables, maybe.
You can elaborate if you like.
Yeah, so I think you asked if it was possible.
I guess
reasonable.
If you can explain to us how would that goal be reached, 100% renewable?
Okay, so I think these are related, and I think a couple other people have asked similar questions. 100% renewables is possible. Okay, Hawaiian Electric, Maui Electric, actually all produced plans. And one scenario in the plans was 100% renewables. It was not the cheapest scenario. Okay, and it was not the cheapest scenario. They have looked at it. It involved burning biofuels. Why did it involve burning biofuels? Yes, you can use lots of solar. Solar's great. It's cheap. We love solar. But you produce it all at one time of the day, you know, in a few hours of the day. What do you do with the rest of the day? Well, let's store it. Well, storing it costs money. And the cost of batteries are coming down, but it's still expensive. And we follow this pretty closely, and we think it's going to be pretty expensive for some more years yet. So there's another option, which is pump storage, which people on various islands in Hawaii are looking at now, and could make sense. So I mean, we are open to anything that makes sense for customers. But let me just pause for a second. If all you have is solar, I don't care how good your storage is, you're going to need an awful lot of solar panels and an awful lot of storage, because what happens if you have a month with a lot of rain? I mean, if you're okay with the power running out, that's fine, but not everybody is. So you need something else. So, and I'm not trying to convince you that big wind is a good idea, but maybe some smaller, hold on just a second. Maybe some smaller wind projects or something that produces all the time. Maybe you're comfortable with having oil or gas as a backup fuel. Maybe that backup fuel is biofuels. The point I'm trying to make is 100% renewables is possible. The diversified portfolio is probably going to make sense, and cost is a factor too. And so we love the idea of 100% renewables. Okay, we're a renewable energy company. Yes, we also sell gas-fired power to our customers. Yes, our customers are pretty happy in Florida. Doesn't mean you want it. We get it. We like renewable energy. Okay. I don't think 100% solar is the answer personally, but I think it's a big part of the answer. Did you want to add?
You addressed the second part of it. Those other ways of doing that, strictly, let's see the gas and the natural gas go away. I mean, because your customers in Florida might be happy, but you're also the biggest consumer of natural gas, and you're fracking the ground to get that, and you're poisoning someone's well, you know, the earth. That's what we live on. It's not money. We live on the earth. That's my concern.
By the way, this is one of the things I love about Hawaii. Actually, the fact that we're having this meeting and you all are challenging us with what kind of questions and issues are is actually one of the things I love about Hawaii, and the fact that there's so much consciousness about doing the right thing for communities and the planet is terrific. So, no argument here.
Okay, so I want to make sure we finish what we said. Gentlemen, and then I know you had a question. Go ahead.
I think what you just kind of explained was, you know, sort of a model of what Kauai is doing, what the Kauai Co-op is doing. They're looking at diversity within the system for Kauai specific. And yeah, something to applaud. It's a good thing. And I hope we can do things like that for Molokai too, Molokai specific. And to reiterate again with the community, the money is there to do a co-op. It's there. All we need to do is get together as a community and work together and unify, and we can work towards that. Big Island is already moving that way as well. So I mean, if you guys are serious about energy independence, then it's gonna take some hard work. You know, otherwise, you know, we're at the mercy of the big company. So.
Yeah, I heard earlier this evening that there are a number of communities in the issue of independence in Florida that are still maintaining separate power systems.
That's true.
What is the dynamics there that is causing them to stay within their own systems and not joining NextEra, not seeing the benefits of NextEra?
Boy, yeah, you want to answer that?
There are actually, by the way, this is Rob Gould, our Vice President at Florida Power and Light and Marketing Communications. There is actually one community that very much wants to join Florida Power and Light because they would like to get the lower rates. That's Vero Beach, Florida. But unfortunately, they're locked into long-term contracts with an organization called Florida Municipal Power Association. I won't get into all the details, but those are long-term agreements that those municipalities entered into. They can't exit out of it.
I mean, so what we have a different, obviously a different situation here, and I guess you've addressed that multiple times. And I guess my question would be is that in Florida, when you come to Molokai, you need to be a little bit more prepared as far as when people are asking relatively about the island in which they're living on, they're looking for direct answers for the island that they're living on. Okay, so but thank you for coming, and I really appreciate that. However, when you're saying that you got lower, you got 9 cents in Florida, that's not going to be the situation here. We already know that. But are you going to be willing to have some set rate that you're going to give us without inflation, like without like an increased percentage of, like Hawaii Electric, for example, they increase their rates at about 5% each year. Okay, right now Molokai is paying anywhere between 46 to 48 cents. I've seen someone paying 71 cents per kilowatt hour, residential. Okay, and she's not here right now, but I've seen it. I work in the solar industry. This is what we see on a daily basis. So with the cost on the rise, where are you coming in? What are your plans for Molokai? I don't want to hear about Maui. I don't want to hear about the rest of the Hawaiian Islands. thank you for going there also, but we want to know what your plans are for Molokai. How are you going to help this community in which you're standing in right now? 71 cents, 50 cents, 48 cents, 46 cents, where are you going to help Molokai?
Well, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate your feedback. I can't answer that question. We didn't come here with all the answers. We didn't come here with, here's our plan for Molokai, and here's what the price is going to be. There's a couple reasons for that. We talked about how Maui Electric has actually published plans, and those were, right now, they're not perfect, they're going to change, but those are the best plans we have. But there's a second reason. Okay, I would love to be able to offer all customers of Hawaiian Electric certainty as to what their prices are going to be for the next several years. I could probably do that, except for one big problem: oil. Okay, as long as customers are spending a third of the money from customers is going to oil, and oil can move around like that, I'm not willing to do that. We've got to get you. I believe we've got to get the state off oil to be able to set prices at a level where they're not moving around.
Okay, just to make things a little bit more clear for you, there are solar companies right now here in the state of Hawaii, third party, not community solar companies. We're talking about third party solar companies who are providing set rates for their customers. Okay?
I understand.
Yeah, and I know you were talking down on power purchase agreements and calling them leases, but they're not leases. Okay, Hawaiian homelands here on Molokai are not allowed to have third-party leases on their property. The DHHL, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, will not allow that. However, there are solar companies who are allowed to provide purchase power agreements for these residents. And these residents, majority, if you're looking at Molokai particularly, we have a lot of low-income families here on the island, Hawaii in general. And I'm not saying we're all low-income, but I'm just saying there is a high percentage here that by giving them the opportunity to have a set rate, some people are on fixed incomes, you're talking about people who are retired, you know, with the cost increasing at 5% over a period of time, or at any percent, what are we going to be looking forward to in the next 15, 20, 30 years? You have a 15-year plan that you said is in correlation to Hawaiian Electric, but I haven't heard you talk too much about that plan. So if you could kind of tell us a little bit about what your partnership is, and if your plan is the same as Hawaiian Electric, if you're coinciding, or is there any type of any part of the plan that Hawaii Electric is providing us for their 15-year plan, is that something that you're in contradiction with, or if you're in agreement with? So I kind of want to hear more about that, because they have a plan.
Yep.
We heard about their plan, but we want to hear about your plan. We want to hear about what you're going to offer, and if it's the same or if it's different, and how are you going to work together to provide that plan for the 15 years?
Okay. So there is one plan. It's their plan. As we've said, it's not locked in stone. It's not perfect. It's going to change. We support the plan. We want to find ways to help them do it better, faster, cheaper. Whatever the final plan is that's approved by the Public Utilities Commission, if it involves cleaner energy, more reliable energy, and more affordable energy, we can help. Okay, that's the case we have to make to the Public Utilities Commission. We believe it, or we wouldn't have entered into this deal. So, I mean, we're happy to talk about the plan that they've laid out. Let me just address one more thing, and thank you for the correction on the lease versus. Most power purchase agreements are structured as a lease in the industry, but I didn't appreciate that there's some differences here. But we, like them, we support customers having a choice. Okay, if customers want to have rooftop solar, we want to make that possible. At the same time, not every customer is going to be able to have rooftop solar. Either they don't have a rooftop, or they're renting, or they can't afford it, or whatever. So we also have to worry about the other customers. They're worrying about the other customers. So we want to try to find a way to make electricity affordable for everyone, at the same time that we're giving people choices. But I think Sharon's happy to talk about the plans if you want to hear more about that.
I just want to do a little check before I commit it to both of you, and we have another question here. Eventually, we want to make sure that we offer enough time for anyone who has individual questions. You know, they will be here later, and at the very end, I do want them to introduce themselves to you, because I think they're here in the room. But I committed to yourself, and I wasn't sure if you gave her your time, or?
No, I was letting her speak.
Okay, so.
My question is this, to touch back on the windmill. How big of a facility will it have to be built? And if we're gonna use natural gas, what is your preparedness if the plant blows up? Because I've seen them on TV.
Really?
Yeah. 40 feet, 60 feet of flame up in the air. We don't want enough fire trucks to fight that kind of fire.
Sorry, you want, what is our plan for?
Yeah, what is your plan to prevent that kind of stuff from happening? If it does happen,
You want to talk about
how are you gonna fight the fire? Because at one time, this whole island went burned at one place. You can burn out the whole island by doing something like that. And what's gonna stop the fire? Any answers?
I think what you've seen is some pipelines, not necessarily power plants.
No, it was the natural gas storage tank that blew up.
We had a big fire once on this island. It was one of the biggest fires on Molokai. Somebody was burning rubbish, and they burned down a lot of the island, most of the island. Yeah, no, it was a while ago. Yeah.
I'm not, I mean, I want to understand the concern.
Because you gotta store natural gas. So what happens if your storage tank, like the one we get down the wall, happens to blow up?
Well, that would be really bad.
No, but what is your plan?
Well,
because we only get 4 fire trucks on this island.
Manny Sanchez is a power plant guy, so tell me, just generally, without, you know, obviously you don't have a specific plan for Molokai, but how generally do we address this issue? How do we think about the risk? How do we manage the risk?
Well, we'd start out by designing it in such a way where it would not blow up. And there's things you can do to do that.
Yeah, but you cannot guarantee that, not gonna happen.
I think you can guarantee it pretty closely. Can an airplane fly into it? I guess that certainly can happen. But the first thing you would do is you design it to make sure it doesn't. And then we're required, any type of storage like that, to have a plan. No different than if the diesel tanks over here right now had an issue. I can tell you that that Maui Electric has a plan to deal with that. What they would do, who they would call to ensure that that would not spread.
Yeah, that would fall back on our firefighters.
Well,
Because none
I'm
of
not
you gonna
familiar
put out
with
the
a
fire.
specific plan for those tanks. But you would have something similar in a power plant. I can't tell you
Well, the
specifically.
thing is, it will fall back on our firefighters, and none of you would put a fire flame suit to fight the fire. You're just gonna sit back and watch them burn.
We'll go to the woman in the back who's also been waiting, and then, yes,
Okay, just a couple of pieces of information and advice. This community, when you talk about the battery, and Miko may have a different perspective, but one of the reasons we're getting that battery, that $1.2 million battery that Miko is going to own, is because this community fought loud and hard against a big wind project and gathered the attention of the University of Hawaii. And they said instead of flying down to the South Pacific, they could do their study here on Molokai. And so then Miko gets to be the recipient of a problem of which we all remember how bad our power got in terms of outages and everything else. So we're going to get a battery to stabilize that because this community was very loud and was fighting and got the attention of the University of Hawaii. So I just want you guys to not necessarily take accolades when this community really does kind of stand up for itself in terms of that battery, which is a part of their plan to stabilize the system because we have so much power. My concern is because I worked for the largest electric utility in Canada. So unfortunately, when you're big, you think big. This is not big. There's, you may say 7,500 people. There's 3,000 utility customers, or so they tell me. And so when we suggest solutions like, show us the numbers of why it would be potentially, or could it be potentially cheaper if you just took us all off the grid and had some backup solar or something, or gas or biofuel that you turned on when you had those rainy days, because there's only 3,000 customers. So your solutions are big. We're a little small island. And you said we're ground zero. Well, that's the opportunity to do research, just as HNEI saw it as an opportunity, instead of going to the South Pacific for the military and doing their renewable energy options, they did it here. And we're going to be the beneficiaries of it, and it's great. And the community wants it, and we're just waiting for that battery to come from China so that we can stabilize the system. So sometimes you got to think smaller versus bigger. And so the business about the blowing up, I don't think that wind farm thought that they would blow up either on Oahu. So don't say it doesn't happen. It happens. And so you want to make sure, and we have to be astute to ask that question, and we ask the question of the battery guys in terms of what's your plan if that thing blows up. So those are legitimate questions in Hawaii. So I think you need to do your homework in terms of each of the islands are different. You're not going to have a blanket solution for Oahu, Maui, Big Island, and here. We're different people. You say, well, what are you going to do if you don't have power? Hey, we used to have power outages every week there for a while. So it's not like we are an urban environment and freak out when the power goes off. We're sort of used to it. Would we like to have more reliable power? Yes. But clearly, we're willing to put up with inconveniences, and we'll work with the utility to fix it. Small solutions. But I still am waiting for the numbers of if you took everybody off the grid, and the utility owned the system, maintain it and everything else, would it be an option to turn an antiquated utility into a more modern utility and just take us all off the grid?
And by the way, I think I agree with everything you said. So if I give the impression that I don't agree with you,
I'm just saying, think about it.
Sorry, I don't know how that happened.
It's not better
But
on this side.
but I do have one clarifying question. So when you say take everybody off the grid, what do you mean? Do you mean disconnect the meters?
Batteries in people's houses, because the last project that was presented on Molokai was was a bigger sum of money, but they wanted $150 million from the state government. And many of us wrote in opposition to that plan. It was a pump storage solar system. Why? Because for about $80 million, you could just put us all off the grid and you'd be done with us.
So I think there's confusion on the terminology generally. People talk
I
about
mean, off the grid, and we wouldn't be getting any electricity from the utility at all. I'm saying that I think that there's a middle ground and that we could go off the grid with, and you guys are doing some battery backup on some houses in Oahu. I read that in the Advertiser News, that that's an option. So that you actually are taking some people off the grid with some storage to last for several hours when the power goes off and stuff. The utility could actually still be our utility and own it, but that we in fact would be generating electricity in our houses that we would use and be off the grid.
So I just think you're saying two things that are opposed to each other, okay? You can absolutely have solar panels on your roof. You can absolutely have battery storage. You can be less dependent on the grid. But then you want to be grid connected. So you're either off the grid or you're not off the grid.
Let me just spend millions and millions and millions of dollars. It actually would be cheaper to take us off the grid with some interconnection for those big storms that come in for a week, as you said.
I'm not arguing with your desire to understand. Does it make sense for customers to be more self-reliant for their energy? I'm gonna characterize it that way. I'm just saying that is, if you're still grid connected, you're not off the grid. Okay, I think what you're saying, and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not arguing with where you're going. I think what you're saying is, look, the utility grid, I'd still like to be connected to it because if for some reason the sun stops shining and my battery runs out of juice, I'd still like to know I could get some power. Maybe you even want to be able to sell power back to the grid. Maybe, and this is something that actually Hawaiian Electric's looking at now, maybe you actually want to be able to sell some battery storage, some energy that you've got in your battery storage system back to the grid. More and more customers want to be able to interact with the utility in new ways, but also take more control of their energy and be less reliant on the grid. We are very supportive of that. I'm going to tell you a little story because I think it's kind of funny. So there's a guy on Oahu with a lot of money, I'm not going to name names, who I'm told has invested $300,000 in rooftop solars, batteries, and what they call energy management systems. Apparently it looks like, you know, NASA, okay? So that he can show that he can be totally energy independent, and he is still connected to the utility. Now, if you've spent $300,000 and you still feel like you need to be connected to the utility, maybe it's not cost effective. But that's today, right? And so the technology's changing. More and more people are able to do what you're saying, and it's becoming more inexpensive. And also, the utility and the regulators and customers and the solar industry are all getting smarter about how can we find new and better ways to work together. Okay, so they're supportive of that. We're supportive of that. I actually think I think I'm agreeing with you.
I'm not so sure.
Okay.
Because I'm saying if your company has a lot of money, you guys are probably going to be looking at some improvements in the system here. I'm just saying, take a look as one of the options and make it a community experiment. And take people, and I mean honestly, if I could afford, I had to put a new roof on my house. If I could afford to be off the grid, I would be tomorrow.
Yeah, totally cut the cord.
Totally off, cut the cord. I'll live with what those batteries store, right. But I'm just saying that not everybody's prepared to do that. But that I know that there's a system on Oahu where they're actually, the utility is putting in battery storage, and it's making it more economical and stuff, and that's a good answer for this community because all of our wages and everything else are less here. But what I hear is hundreds of millions of dollars when I think for $80 million, everybody could be off the grid here. So I want to see numbers that include different kinds of options than out of the box, because I tell you, they don't think out of the box here at all. You know, they look at, let's tweak this and do this, versus what is a solution for a small community? And what is that answer for a small community? And big answers are not an answer here. It doesn't work. And centralized utilities don't work because we just don't have, and it's going to get less. Because as those rates go up, we're even better at saving energy. And you know that. If you were to look at all of the figures, we are the best energy users in Hawaii in terms of how low we use it. So we know what that feels like. So it means you've got to think out of the box if you're the utility here. And so the utility owning the solar systems and stuff, I know it's a problem in the state of Hawaii, but we're talking about Molokai. And I've said that all along, that let Molokai, if you guys need help at the PUC to do something special here at Molokai, we'll step up to the bat and we'll support you to get it, if it's good for us. But it's out of the box. What is happening on the other islands will not work here at all. That's all. Out of the box.
Yeah.
And batteries are not going to be a problem in very short time.
Oh, you're selling batteries short.
Yeah.
Batteries are...
I live on batteries, I love them.
So do an experiment here. I mean, since we're ground zero, keep doing it. Do the experiment. HNEI did, and I think they're going to really love it once they can get that battery. But we're receptive to those kinds of things if it'll help us.
Yeah, I'd like to... Can I just share that? You know, when we came last month and we shared, and I think Matt talked about looking at different solutions, definitely. We like to try to bring that configuration of kind of the battery with solar still interconnected and seeing if we can control it and you know, export to the grid when we need the energy. We're looking at those types of solutions also for Molokai, and our Stephen Rimshaw is going to be meeting with the different solar contractors, I believe it's next week, individually to talk about other solutions that maybe we can work together on to address the issues here. So I just wanted to share that.
I actually love your idea.
Just to give some history on the battery and whatnot, ILO Molokai has put on a series of meetings called the Molokai Clean Energy Initiative. Matt and Steven folks has been a part of it. There's actually Matt Yamashita who bought in HNEI to one of the meetings.
And we work with various organizations, Maui County, Venice Schools, Hawaiian Homes, we had Molokai community involved. And you know, basically, what it came out to be was Molokai wants to be Molokai specific. We want energy from Molokai specific. We're not interested in delivering power to a cable and whatnot. We can help the rest of the state in other ways, and we already do. We help the rest of the world actually in other ways. So, you know, basically what she's saying, we rather go small than anything else. Another option, like I say, I remind the community again, the co-op is another option. And if you guys are serious, we can do it. So we talked about the many different options that we could move forward with. And hey, we'd be happy to share that. Matt folks, Stephen folks, they have some of the minutes from the other meetings. So, you know, as far as looking at options for this island, we've did it over and over again. So
I want to complete that.
I'm a little confused about the cable issue. One reason a lot of people move here is because of the natural beauty and the fact that we have a whale sanctuary here. We haven't talked about what happens if you decide to have a cable, and I'm not willing to say that Maui's out there and Oahu is out there and I don't really care about them. I think most of the people here care about issues, even if it is in someone else's backyard. So I think it's very important for us to understand, and I think most people are against a cable going through the channel because we do have the whales that come here, and I think everyone is in love with them and wants to make sure that our ocean is protected. So I just want to say that that's another thing that we would really be against. And it's not, even though it's not on our island any longer, I believe it's completely off the table for Molokai. Is that correct?
From our perspective, it is.
Yes. So, but it's not from Maui to Oahu.
But I have said, because a legislator's asked me this question, are you saying that NextEra would never build a cable to Lanai or Molokai? And I said, I can't say that because we are not pursuing it, we are not interested in it, we don't think it makes sense. But if we're a utility in the state of Hawaii and the Public Utilities Commission orders us to do that, it's not our place to say no. Personally, I have trouble envisioning that happening, but I want to be very clear. As a public utility, you exist to serve the public. So I can't say it would never happen.
There's another, you mentioned that it'll go both directions. And I suggest you don't use that to sell that because it's not, we're not going to sell them down the road just because you're telling us that it's going to go both ways or it's going to benefit Maui as well. I think ultimately going and destroying the ocean in any way or destroying the reef, you know, you're going to blast a hole through the reef to get your cable through. It just doesn't make any sense.
Listen, I'm not here to sell the cable. I'm happy to talk about some of those issues. Ultimately, if a cable, if the Public Utilities Commission says a cable should go forward, whoever's developing that is going to need to do environmental impact statement under both Hawaii and federal law. So, and I believe, my personal belief based on the analysis we've done, is that it would have to go through the whale sanctuary if it's going to be done at all. I'm not saying it's going to be done. I'm not even saying it should be done. I'm just saying if it is done, I think as a technical feasibility matter, it will end up going through the whale sanctuary. So I think your concerns are very legitimate concerns. It would have to be assessed as part of that EIS process. But this merger is not about the cable. We happen to know a lot about it. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not trying to run from it. But what we said again is, at this point, given Hawaiian Electric's done some analysis that suggests it doesn't make sense, given a lot of things have changed in the energy business in the last 1.5 to 2 years, we're not sure. The jury's out. We'll see.
I'm going to give it to fellow here, and then quite honestly, out of respect for everybody's time, and you know, they will be here afterwards and very open, but I'd like them to introduce themselves to you, and we will as well, right after your question or comment.
You guys saying that by 2030, you guys looking at as having everything kind of figured out with the savings that we're going to have as far as kilowatts per hour and things like that, the charges. And you guys are saying that's going to include rooftop solar as well. Is that you guys saying? But yet you guys are cutting out solar in general, I mean, with Matt, I mean, with the net metering system that we have going right now, why wait 15 years spending an extra 30,000 or more when we can get savings immediately? I mean, the company we work for, you save 20 to 60% immediately with no money done at all. Matt, I mean, you can pay $18 a month with $2 to like $5 grand minimum, you know what I mean? Like, why, I don't understand why you're trying to save us money, but we need to wait 15 years to start saving money. We're a small community, like how everybody said, we're on a lot of people are on fixed incomes. Why aren't we allowed to save money now, immediately, when we have to wait so long? I mean, by then some of us might die, some of us might have to go on welfare, which is even a bigger issue. But I'm just curious, if you're going to provide things that we already can provide now, why do we need to wait?
Oh,
yeah, it's actually our plan. The 2030
Oh,
is
it's not, because he
I mean, I heard about the plan about how during the peak time, there's so much solar being produced, you know.
Okay, so that's a technical issue. So actually the plan, the 20% reduction is over time. It's not like we're saying, oh no, you have to wait till 2030 to get the 20, it'll be a net 20% decrease from, I believe it's 2014 in 2030. So, but it'll,
Comes in over time.
yeah, it comes in over time.
But that's,
the reason I'm bringing that up is because your reason is over time. This is immediate.
You're right, and so we're not saying, and they're not saying that they don't want customers to have the choice on distributed solar. Customers have the choice today. They're going to have the, there's some technical concerns that are holding things up today. But really, what this, the way to read this is, some people worry that NextEra Energy is not going to be supportive of rooftop solar. That's not the case. We support customers having a choice. The 20% bill reductions that's in their plan is actually not for those customers. It's for everybody who doesn't have rooftop solar over the course of the plan. Because there's always going to be people that don't have rooftop solar. We want to make sure that we're addressing their bills too. But that's not to prevent people from doing rooftop solar.
But it's preventing rooftop solar. You're preventing rooftop solar.
Right now.
Right now.
I understand your point. I understand your point. But that,
it's, right?
But we're also working on solutions and working with the industry.
How long is the analysis going to take? That's the thing.
We're hoping very.
It's kind of like a moratorium.
February, March, April is 4 months really.
Yeah, no, we're trying to work on ways to continue to grow solar, but to do it in a sustainable way. And some of the problems with the net energy metering program is that it definitely reduces the rates for those that are on it, but it kind of increases it for everyone that's not. And that doesn't feel like a sustainable program. And so we're trying to address some of those concerns so that rooftop solar can continue, and everyone can share in the benefits of that, purchasing that cheaper energy, not just the people that install it.
But then you never answered my question. I asked you earlier, if you was going to make a solar farm, how big of a designated area where will it be?
We don't have set plans for that. It was
well, you should if you're going to present that to the community.
Oh, we presented it as a proposal to also to get input. No, and I think we're hearing
you
from.
You said that it's part of your plan, but then yet you're saying, oh, we don't have anything planned right now.
No,
but then why is it you're saying you have a plan, but then you're not planning anything right now?
Because the plan is rooftop solar.
No, we had both in the plan.
You said that you have, one of your plans is a solar farm, right?
Yes.
And so I'm asking, how big of a facility you're looking at? How much solar panels are going to be there? And where is it going to be located? Because Palau, you cannot build in Palau, it's a swamp area.
Yeah, no, I can explain probably why we don't have those details, because we came out with a plan, and part of that plan is to get input and get feedback on it. So, we're not going to say where it is or how big it is or what's right for the island. We put something out there so that we can start the discussions on what people want. And so it's not set in stone, it's not a certain size, it's not going to be a certain place. Those are all the things that we come to talk about.
So I guess you said that that's a suggestion, that you've made a suggestion, you've provided options, and yet you've taken away options too. Because you're providing an option of a solar farm, possibly, but you're taking away the possibility of other companies to provide solar right now. But you're saying that it's saturated, correct? Molokai is saturated, yet you're gonna provide solar, so it doesn't make any sense.
You know, what we're trying to say is that the net energy metering program has certain restrictions, and given those restrictions, it's going to be very difficult to continue to install under that program. People can still install solar under other programs that don't have those restrictions, and we are, you know, working with the industry to try to modify what we have to make it more sustainable, so that rooftop solar can continue to grow in the future. In fact, that's part of our plan.
There's over 500 families on Molokai waiting for solar to be approved.
And at the same time, when you say you don't plan, you're kind of contradicting yourself, because you can't even answer all questions of what is your plan.
So as I said earlier, out of respect for people's time, we're going to allow, because some folks have left because they also wanted to ask individual questions, but in the way that's right, I would like our team from both Maui Electric and NextEra to at least introduce themselves, so you all get to know who they are. We're all going to be here after. You know, if you have specific questions, I do want to let you know there is dinner in the back, because Kalamai, I know that I should have said it earlier so you could grab it. And I have to tell you that the willingness of NextEra to shift from what we've been doing around the state to this, you know, is reflective of their willingness. I mean, I just have to say that. And for me, I will say that I am very clear that if they came to this community and said, we're going to take 5 acres, 40 acres, 1,000 acres, and do something without first discussing more extended plans and listening to it, would be a grave error. I will tell you that. And so the plans that Maui Electric put forward as proposals, because the community said, what are you folks doing? We went, did some work, came forward, made a proposal. It's the same thing to go back. So for NextEra to not come with a plan, or to have come with details, is not something that I would recommend. That's just, you know, my experience with all of our communities. But I would like them to introduce themselves, because I think that's the right thing to do. So I'm just trying to wave. I will wave at Kaui back there. Maybe a little bit your name and your titles.
Hi everyone, I know most of you, Maui Electric, and my name is Kelly White.
I'm Steve Stengel, and I work on the NextEra Energy Resources side of our company.
I am Kate Fukunaga, and also with NextEra Energy, and I work on Oahu.
Good evening, Ed DeVerona. I work for Florida Power and Light in power delivery.
My name is Manny Sanchez, and I'm responsible for fossil and solar generation for NextEra Energy Resources.
Dawn Thomas, I work for NextEra Energy Resources.
Rob Gould, Vice President and Chief Communications Officer for NextEra Corporation.
Good evening, I'm Willie Ho. I'm the Director of Customer Service Support Services, and I work for Florida Power and Light in Miami.
Oh, Matt McNeff, Manager of Engineering, Maui Electric.
And you all met Sharon and Eric formerly. At this time,
Are they just real fast? I just like summarize, just so that we're all on the same page. I'm not
okay,
trying
and
to,
I'll summarize.
Yeah, just like
okay.
I just want to try, and if we can all agree, then we know we're all on the same page. To summarize real briefly, from what I understand, what we know about you, what we see on Google, all of that, you're saying is not true. So we don't know you guys yet. We don't, we cannot say that there's a trust level, not enough experience with you to have that trust level. So, you guys got to work on your PR. Maybe we got to go do more homework, do more research. So that's I think one area, right? We need to learn more about you guys.
That'd be great.
And you need to reach out and continue to explain who you are to us.
Good.
Another point I think to summarize tonight is, you guys you're saying that what you're saying, what you're promising, we should trust. Time will tell. The next point is, you guys are committed to lowering our energy rates, and also 100% committed to aggressively pursuing renewable energy as a community sees best for us in Hawaii. But you don't have any real solid plan to say how exactly that's going to happen, aside from the plan that Miko has, which is a plan we all agree needs more work and is in process, to their credit. So to me, that's some of the biggest takeaways. And the final takeaway, I think, for you guys is, hopefully you understand that our community may be small, but we're very passionate, we're very aware, and we very much want to be a part of the solutions for our island going forward in the future. And so what I want to leave with is, this is just a beginning to a conversation. If you guys, if everything happens the way you guys want it and this merger goes through, we expect to see you guys back here soon to continue this conversation. Because if this is all we see of you and your merger gets approved and little old Molokai is all of a sudden forgotten about, it's going to be real bad taste in the mouth. And that's going to be, you know, that's going to prove the whole trust thing. So we expect to see you guys back here. And we expect to see you guys at the table talking with us about our specific needs as a small community that's very different and very unique from the rest of the state. I think that's the summary as far as I see it, and maybe are we all on the same page with that for the most part?
Mahalo, all of you. I think this was very, very helpful and important. It is unwise for any company to come and not be able to understand what their community is about. Every community has told us pretty much the same thing, but in a different way or a different style. So, you know, we really do appreciate the time.